After watching the previous episode, you assume that running is bad for weight loss. Challenge accepted. Now let's use first principles thinking to settle this now. Jonah, Primal Thinker here. I help clarify assumptions for you so that you can wrap your head around them and create your own solutions. If you watch towards the end of this video, you will discover the one running hack that I wish I knew before I started running.
Okay, remember Kara from the previous episode? Well, she wanted to lose weight, right? This is how she looks like now. And she wants to thank you for helping her out the last time we saw her. But now she wants to lose more weight and she's wondering if you can help her again. So Kara's goal is to be this thin. And currently, what she's doing to achieve that is to walk every morning before breakfast. So this was the result of our creativity last time. In the previous episode, this was the solution that she went on with, but her weight plateaus. Now we will examine using the first principles thinking method. What else can Kara do so that she can continually decrease her weight? So let's proceed with step number 1. You know the drill. Number 1, identify and define your current assumptions. So Kara's current assumption was the more she runs, the less fat burning. So this is in relation to the context we have in the previous episode. And that's why she walks like penguins every morning before breakfast. Because yes, that entails more fat burning. But now, let's try to question if that's really the case. Maybe there's an angle we're not seeing here. So let's break down the problem into its fundamental principles. So the current assumption is the more she runs, the less fat burning, right? But what other factors affect fat burning? Well, one factor could be the hormones. Hormones influence our fat metabolism. Okay, so that's one key principle here. Now we can dig deeper about hormones because apparently they affect fat burning. What hormones are stimulated by an activity? Since we are talking about running or any exercise, what hormones are particularly stimulated by this? So, 2 hormones come in mind, and the first one is human growth hormone, also known as the HGH, and the cortisol hormone, which is the primary stress hormone. So we'll talk about this as we ask ourselves questions leading to a solution. So again, an activity like running stimulates the production of HGH and cortisol. So that's one key principle, right? Let's put that on the side. Then the next question you might be asking is, what is human growth hormone, by the way? What is HGH? Well, HGH stimulates muscle growth. So the higher the HGH, it promotes muscle growth. Okay, so that's one key principle again. Again, I like tables for easy visualization, so let's summarize that into a table. So here, hormone HGH promotes muscle growth. Okay, so the next question would be, how does HGH affect fat burning? Because earlier we have uncovered that hormones affect fat burning. So how does HGH affect fat burning? Well, muscle uses more energy than fat at rest. What does that mean? That means that the more muscle you have, the more energy it requires, meaning the more fat burning will occur. Does that make sense? Because we are getting the energy from the fat, right? And in order to sustain the muscles that we have in our bodies, we need to have energy. And those energy could come from fat. And that's one key principle. Now we are kind of leading somewhere here. If we know that the higher the muscle mass in your body entails more fat burning, so maybe this will lead into something, right? Because our goal is to burn more fat. The next question you could be asking is, okay, so HGH promotes muscle growth and muscle growth promotes fat burning. How do we produce more growth hormones? Well, the more intense the activity, the more HGH is released during sleep. The more intense the workout, the higher the HGH production. And again, this is released during sleep, meaning the muscles are being built when you are asleep. That's one key principle, and I'd like to make another column for that. So HGH promotes muscle growth and it's stimulated by high intensity activity and released during sleep. Okay, looking good. Let's move on to the next hormone. So we have two hormones, right? HGH and cortisol. What is cortisol? What is its role? High levels of cortisol promotes breaking down of muscles to make glucose for instant energy. So you know about glucose, right, from the previous episode. So high cortisol levels, this promotes the breaking down of the muscles. So that's another key principle, and let's update our table here. Now, the question is, how do we produce more cortisol? Well, cortisol is released by the body in response to stress. And that could be an exercise or activity like running, because exercise is stress. And the higher the intensity of that activity, the higher the levels of cortisol we are producing. So, and that is released in response to the stress, meaning it is released during the actual activity. And to summarize that, we have this table. So we know that more muscle growth means more fat burning, and the higher the intensity of the exercise or activity, the higher the production of both HGH and cortisol. HGH appears to be the good hormone here, and cortisol appears to be the bad hormone here. So it's like we cannot get the best of both worlds, because high intensity activity stimulates the production of both. Okay, let's move on to step number 3, and that's to create new solutions from scratch. Okay, the principles we have are on the left side. And our goal, of course, is to have more muscle growth so that we can burn more fat. And the question now is, how do we optimize these hormones in order to achieve our goal of growing muscles? In other words, how can we maximize the HGH hormone production and minimize the cortisol? Because HGH promotes muscle growth and cortisol promotes muscle breakdown. So we need to have the highest HGH possible and the lowest cortisol level possible. So let's start with human growth hormone. As we can see, human growth hormone is stimulated by high intensity exercise. So this is automatic that we need to have a high intensity activity in order to produce HGH. There's no other way. And then we can also see that HGH is released during sleep. So what we can do is have more sleep, right? Because the muscle building is happening when you sleep. So it makes sense that you just have to sleep more, have some quality sleep, so that you can have the maximum human growth hormone possible. Okay, so that's how we optimize HGH. Well, how about cortisol. How do we minimize cortisol? So as we can see, cortisol is released during the actual activity. So it makes sense that we lower down the duration of our activity, right? Because the lesser the duration, the lesser the cortisol hormones will be released. Make sense? Okay? So to summarize that, this is the optimal combination. In order to achieve the goal of more muscle growth, for more fat burning, we have to have high human growth hormone production, and that is achieved by high intensity exercise and good quality sleep. And also to minimize cortisol, we need to shorten the duration of our activity. Okay, so now we can hand this off to Kara, that all she needs to do is add this regimen, add an activity that is of high intensity, and do it for a short period of time and have a good night's sleep, and that will eventually result to more muscle growth and eventually more fat burning. And now Kara has an idea. So that means that any high intensity activity could be anything, like running for your life like you're being chased by a bear. That's a very high intensity activity. And if you're lifting weights, it could be lifting heavier weights that will require more effort from you, or it could be cycling for at a fast pace that will require again more effort from you. So again, the higher the intensity of the activity, the better, because the more HGH will be produced. Okay, and the key here is to keep it short. So that could mean you can have it in intervals. Let's say 1 minute, and then you rest, and then 1 minute, you do the activity, and then rest again. Then you know the drill. And then you can also have just one go. For example, run for your life like you're chasing a bear for 10 seconds. That could be it. And another thing, if you're lifting weights, you can just make fewer reps, making the time shorter. Okay, and the last one, my favorite part, is to have a quality sleep. So as you can see, you can do high intensity activity at a shorter time, but not sleep soundly like a baby. That will not result to muscle growth. So this is a requirement, a quality sleep. So that could mean in the morning you can have some naps, or you can sleep by the beach. And of course, at night you have to have a glorious quality sleep.
I hope you enjoyed watching this video as I have enjoyed making it for you. And you got that running hack, right? So make sure you let me know in the comments below what your biggest takeaway was. And the entire channel is all about leveraging these first principles of thinking to solving our real life problems. Make sure you subscribe for future videos like this one. And if you have an assumption you want us to question for the next video, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.